at the start of every meeting, we pray. And I say the same thing every single time. The sales will come, people will buy because of who we are and the product that we have. But the only outstanding goal every single day above money is our job is to shine God's light on every single person who walks through that door. And
Right.
that is the ultimate goal.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. This is your first time here. This is the podcast called Old Guys Still Rock. And again, if it's your first time here, it's going to be the best podcast you've ever heard before in your life. I am Blair Armstrong of Team Armstrong Coldwell Banker. I am located in the beautiful Coachella Valley. If you don't know what the Coachella Valley is, it is basically between Palm Springs and Indio, Palm Desert, Rancho Mirage, all that stuff. If you don't know where that is, as Brent and I always say, get a map. I am a global luxury specialist in the world of residential real estate. And then on my left, possibly your right, depending on how these come out, it seems to switch everyone. Almost you. We have my co-host and best friend.
My bad.
It's good. We're going to get you in a little bit.
Sorry.
And my good friend and co-host of the show, Brent Wright of Brent Wright Incorporated. This man has many different hats. We are actually, I think last week I said we're in episode 96. Today is actually episode 96. I got really excited about it. But if you want to know a little bit about Brent and I, there's 95 other episodes we talk from all ranges of different things. But Brent Wright and I have been friends for great years. I say man of many different hats. And when I say that is he owns body shops, he owns detail shops, he owns his wife and him just opened a wellness center, which you talked really in depth about last week, is a executive in a payroll company, much of other things. The biggest thing that he's really peeling back the onion now that he's done over a course of the year is really starting business coaching and personal coaching. So if you're kind of stuck in a rut and you're kind of looking for something, again, I would really suggest for you guys to go back and look at our other 95 episodes, see if you connect with him, and then we will let you know how you can get a hold of him. And I jokingly say this every week for the last couple of weeks. If you don't like him, you can always reach me. So,
and vice versa.
Right? If you don't like me, you can reach him.
Okay, I think you left one part out about Brent that I love.
She's so excited to be here today.
I know, but I love his home life, his ranch.
You want to talk about his ranch?
Well, I mean, yes, he is a man of so many hats, but I love seeing the tractors and the kids out with the chickens and the cows and everything. So I love that aspect of it too. I mean, that's a whole job in itself. Some people just do that as a full-time job, and you do all these other hats, and then you have your home, which is amazing, and that's a job in and of itself, I feel.
Well, it's the land of 87 projects currently. And in fact, my wife came up with an idea last week. She tends to do that, where she's decided to rip off the whole top of our house and build a second story. So we're working through that process now. She's like, so when can we get started? Well, that's a little bit more than just getting started. That's a designer, that's an architect, that's an engineer, that's a whole process. So yeah, yes. But we're gonna have hopefully spring calving should start in the next 3 to 6 weeks. So we don't really keep track of it. We keep the bull in with the cows. So we kind of never know when he's done his job. So we never really know where to line it up on the calendar. But typically we start having them some, end of April through the end of June is when we'll have some calves. So we do know that we have one that will be this fall, but typically we try to do spring calves, not fall calves.
How fun.
So for we'll get into that. But for those of you who just want to know who this lady is talking to there, this is my wife, Chrissy Armstrong. She is a very, very successful entrepreneur out here in the world of fashion. She owns a couple of different boutiques, and we're going to get into that today. I mean, we did a little bit last week with April. She really broke it down, women in business. Obviously, we've had Mary Lockram on here the last couple weeks here and there, but I'm real excited to be here. I've been actually, Brent and I talked about this way back in the day of like getting our wives in here. So
yeah,
I am subjecting myself to some stuff today. Brent subjected himself last week. So those should be very interesting.
Well, you got
but
the
I'm very
whole
excited.
Men in Black motif going on, buddy. You got the
Yeah,
whole,
dude. I got to tell you today.
need the glasses.
I got
Yeah.
I've got the Phil Mickelson going on. So we here at our club we have a men's group out here, and they're going to do a Riders Cup, and so we have America against Canada. So we have a large Canadian contingent out here. So a couple of the Canadian, we didn't have as many Canadians as they needed with the Americans. So I've got to show you something here a little bit. I have been picked to be on the Canadian team along with Ken McCumber, who's been on here a couple times. But anyway, with that being said, is him and I and about 5 other Americans have been picked to be on the Canadian team. So we are Go Canada. So forever those who said that Patriots can't come across the border and make things work, here I am. You guys know that we go down the path sometimes of calling people out, but we're going to have fun. So you guys are on the
So you're on team 57 cents of the dollar.
57 cents a
Right.
dollar. I have loonies in my pocket, and I believe in free trade. So
Is that also known as Team 51st State?
Team 51st State, we love that. So
after Greenland.
To all my Canadian teammates coming out here, when you see this, Go Canada for the next 3 days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. They're going to be It's called for Battle of the Belt. Has been picked as an alternate, so I'm actually not going to be playing until Saturday. So I'm very excited about that. But so go Team Canada, America. We still love you, obviously, of course, but this is going to be fun. It's just a bunch of guys coming together and competing, and we'll see what happens. So hopefully next time that we have this podcast, I might bring in the belt. That's what we're hoping. So
are you like Team Happy Gilmore? Because the whole, hockey / golf thing, is that how Canadians play golf? Is like with hockey sticks? Or
dude, I actually have a Happy Gilmore jersey. So, and I wear that all the big tournaments. I wear that on the final day, and people are laughing all the time. So
nice.
Anyway, let's get into this. We're having a good time already.
Yay.
But we have Chrissy of Chrissy's on El Paseo. Really want to get into some stuff, and I think this is going to be a lot of conversation between Chrissy and Brent today. I might interject in some stuff. But Chrissy, she has 2 boutiques down on El Paseo. One's kids and gifts, and one is basically a full woman's boutique. But really, kind of give us a background of how that you got here, not even just before women's boutiques and jewelry and all that stuff. But how did you what was your drive to become this woman of business and entrepreneur? And I'll lead into some other questions later. I have a bunch of questions for you, so I'm excited for you to share your journey.
I have some questions for you too.
Oh, good.
After the podcast. No, just kidding. Yeah, I mean, I actually went to college to be a teacher. That was what I wanted to do very, very badly, was to be a teacher. Jamie, my god sister, grandson's teacher. Her mom, my godmother, teacher. Rich, her dad, teacher. And I always loved being around kids and making a difference in kids' lives. And I did special ed. I did a first, second split. I did preschool and I did kindergarten. And that's what I thought I wanted to do. And then the tide shifted and I got into corporate America. And so I've been in corporate America basically since I was 22 years old, I believe. So a long time ago. And through that journey had a plethora of jobs, shall I say. I've been in many, many different industries. Took a little hiatus and became a flight attendant for a bit, which I absolutely love being a flight attendant. That was a lot of fun. And I love being around the public. I've always loved flying. So I was on Alaska Airlines and they were offering a leave of absence. And I took it just because my personal circumstances at the time allowed me to do that. And then I was like, okay, I've got to get back into sales. I really love sales. And I met with 3 people and said, how do I get back into sales? At this time, I was up in Kirkland, Washington, in the Seattle area. And all 3 people I met with said, how do I get back into sales after jumping corporate American sales for 5 years to be a flight attendant? And all three of them said, go sell copiers. And I thought, oh my goodness gracious. Because I was in the tech industry up until the tech boom, or bust. I actually resigned that position and went and became a flight attendant 2 months before the bust. My timing was good there. But so lo and behold, I became a copier salesperson. It was probably one of the worst jobs I've ever had. I now know why they say if you can sell copiers, you can do anything, because it is brutal. But the guy in the office next to me would say, oh, my wife's going to wineries. Oh, my wife's going out to dinner and taking wine. Oh, my wife's going golfing. Oh, and I finally said, what does your wife do? Because whatever she's doing, I want to do that. And he said, oh, she's in the wine industry. And I said, I want to do that. And he said, really? And I said, yeah, I love wine and I love sales and I can go out and golf. And so the next day he actually came in, he said, she's hiring. And I interviewed and I got the job. So I was in the wine industry, sales and marketing. I was a national director of strategic accounts. So calling on the big guys, I did the calls on the retail side. It's called off premise. On premise is restaurants. Off premise is grocery. So I did the headquarter calls on Safeway, Trader Joe's, Costco, Albertsons, all those big guys. And I absolutely loved it. Traveling a lot across the nation, but pretty much heading up to Napa every 4 to 6 weeks and doing that. And it was wonderful. And then I moved to the desert. And I think my days of traveling around the nation and being gone so much just kind of came to an end. So you and I started dating for the seventh time, I think.
The journey that we've had, and a lot of you guys we'll talk about on the past episodes. So again, I think that's a big deal. You know, we were married later in life. We just had our 8th year anniversary, but we dated on and off really since college. So it's, you know, it just, you know, we've talked about this in the past as a preface this, you know, to kind of give some personal backside to it is, you know, God always has a plan in this. And so even though that we met 30 some odd years ago, almost 40 years ago, is that about right? Yeah.
Yeah, I dated you when I was 18 in college. Yeah, we did. So that's
almost
my age.
35 years ago. So anyway, but I just think that's a big thing, you know, is just really is you know, is sometimes you think that when your path is going to go one way and then God guides you back to another path. But so I think that's a big thing. And, you know, I think that was one of the big conversations you and I had. And then just to be completely transparent with all of our listeners, you know, Chrissy was traveling and when we were dating and being in the wine industry, and I had a hard time with it because it's such a male dominated industry. I know how things like that happen. So
yes, when you're traveling with a group of men and going out and drinking wine every night, it was maybe not so conducive as to the relationship that we had in mind. So it was fine for me to step away from that and do something else. I mean, I understood that wholeheartedly. Absolutely.
But I think that, you know, here's a big thing that I don't want to make this, maybe it was. So, I mean, this has been pretty transparent here, and we have some therapy Thursdays, right, buddy?
Right. I just wrote that down, actually.
So anyway, but I think I had concerns, but you also had the choice to make that decision if you stayed in it or not, right?
100%.
I mean, at that time we were dating, so it wasn't a married type of thing. So if it was something like, hey, that's not in my playing cards, you can easily said, kick rocks, and I'm staying with this position.
No, there was no ultimatum or any discussion of that. I think it's God's plan, and timing was everything, and it was time. And I had done everything in the wine industry that I really wanted to do. My next step was vice president, and that's not something that I actually wanted to do. I love the sales aspect. I love calling on the customers. Being a vice president and managing people wasn't, and look where I am now, but that wasn't what I wanted to do in the wine industry. I loved my customers. I mean, Kent Shockey, you know, one of your clients and friends now is his cousin Gigi, and I still talk to him. Just talked to him last week. So that's the relationship part that I absolutely love. So I think that it was just a natural way for me to exit the wine industry and do something else. You know, all the cards were laid perfectly out, and it was God's plan. Right.
Yeah.
And so, so then, we got married, and your parents said, would you like to buy the business? And I'm looking around at this house they're living in, and I'm like, yeah, I want to do this. And so we bought the business, and that was not an easy business to do. And a lot of people say, oh gosh, you only work 2 days a week, but it wasn't. You work just as much during the week, and getting up at, Blair would get up at 2:30 and leave the house by 3:30, and I'd leave the house by 4:30, and it's grueling. It was physical. It was a lot. I mean, it was a lot of fun in so many aspects. And yeah, we did carry on quite a successful business. And then COVID hit, and we were on the College of the Desert campus. So we got shut down actually before retail did. El Paseo Shopping District stayed open longer than we did at the street fair because we were on a college campus. And, we got shut down in February. So we had already purchased all of our merchandise for the season. And so we have all this merchandise now, but we're shut down. So I turned our house into our booth at the street fair. And I had all the ladies and customers who were calling me, we need to see you. We want to come get your jewelry. So that happened for a couple months, and we didn't see our dining room table. It was a jewelry stand. I mean, the entire lower level of our house was like a street
crazy,
fair.
right?
It was crazy. It was crazy. And thought, okay, well, we need to start on an online business because that's where people are definitely going. So launched a website, and then I kept thinking that the street fair is going to reopen. And thank God you started doing real estate. So you had your license for that. So you fell back into that. But I'm like, what am I going to do? And I talked to somebody, and they said, you should look on El Paseo to open a boutique. And, I had shied away from that because your mom had said that a lot of people have approached her and say, oh gosh, why don't you open a store? And she's like, yeah, don't do that. But times were different now. Now we don't have the option of the street fair. So I did look on El Paseo and found a little place and did jewelry. And then I helped out somebody else who got shut down at the street fair with a clothing line. And then I started adding in some gifts. And then from there, I moved to the corner location next door to Armando's and started bringing in clothing. And that's when everything changed, because one of the most prominent boutiques of over 30 years, BB1, she shut down. She was like, okay, during this whole COVID thing, I'm just ready to retire. COVID didn't shut her down, but the circumstances were there. So I went in and talked to the girls and said, where are you all going to land? Because I need help at my store. And that's when I got Jen, and she said, you need to bring in clothes. And so we went from having 95% jewelry and accessories to 95% clothing. And
Quite a transition, right?
It was crazy. It was crazy. Never, that's not what I set out to do. Again, God's plan, bigger plan, not mine, but it's exactly, he put me at the right place at the right time with the right people. And, since then moved across the street, the women's across the street to the kids store where the original women's was. Just under 1,000 square feet. Now that's the kids store. And then a year ago, November, moved the women's across the way, and that's over 3,000 square feet. And then just in, October, we had a third location, which isn't customer facing, but that's our offices where we have an employee lounge. We do all the receiving, we do all the steaming, we have a conference room, all of the back of the office is there. So we really have 3 locations, although only the 2 are customer.
Right.
And so we have the women's store, and then we have the kids store. And it's been incredible. It's been an incredible journey. And it's kind of funny. I look back at all of the different various jobs I've had, from selling pumpkins and Christmas trees to being a teacher, the tech industry, the wine industry,
right,
and all these different things that I have done to build a business. Little things always pop out that I go, oh, that's why God put me in that job way back then, because he knew I'm going to need that experience for this.
Right.
Because if you would have told me 6 years ago, you're going to have a boutique, a women's boutique doing fashion and a kids store, I would have laughed at you. There is no way. So that was the progression, and that's where I am today. And it's incredible. It's been a gift. It's been a blessing every single day. And I have the most incredible team ever. I would put them against anybody in the world, because it's truly very, very special.
So Brent, when I hear this, it's kind of a pseudo mentor of yours and mine, just because of Arte and stuff. There's little bits of her, and the same thing with April is too, that remind me of Jenny Carlima.
Yeah.
And when she talks about it, just kind of her journey of just never expecting what's next, and watching this from afar, as a husband, and also as a cheerleader as well.
Not too far.
Not too far.
You're pretty close.
Pretty close. To sleep next to you at night, but that's just fine. But it's just, you just to watch this transformation of where people have come and how they keep it. And it's this next step. But before I get into my questions, I want to make sure that you don't have any questions.
I got some comments, then some questions. And if everybody has been watching this for 95 episodes, my wife always says I'm distracted during this. I'm not distracted. I'm writing questions down. I do happen to click things off that pop up and dings that go on and all those things, but I'm really focused on trying to write stuff down. That's my process. And so what I wrote down was that you had been trained during your teaching stuff as special ed. And that kind of aligns with why you probably picked Blair for a husband. So I just want to throw that out.
Yeah, you got your shot, dude. Good job.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
Last week, so that's all right.
I know.
Brilliant.
And then you did a flight attendant thing. So Mary did the flight attendant thing too. So is that like you natural progression? You kind of come into the desert after being a flight attendant, like that's the prerequisite for moving to the desert?
It might
like,
be.
yeah.
Might be, because I know quite a few people down here who were flight attendants in their previous lives. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And then big question, did you ever get a chance to interact with Gary Vee or his family in the wine industry? Because they were huge. They're actually really huge in the wine industry. They're 20 to $30 million a year off of a wine website. So I didn't know if you ever got a chance to interact with him. That would have been cool if you did.
No, I didn't. Unfortunately. No, I was, because ours was all, the off premise. So so with off premise versus on premise, it's kind of a funny thing. So on premise, you're going in and you're talking to, the sommeliers and everybody and tasting the wine and and buying the cases and what are you going to pour by the glass at the restaurant. And for me doing off premise, I said, I don't sell wine. I sell trucks. I did my 1,100 cases go into a truck. So I was selling trucks of wine.
Yeah. Well, that's what Gary Vee. So their retail, online retail sales and delivery. And so you would have been probably selling to them because they were buying trucks worth of wine. So, but they're on the East Coast, so Eastern Seaboard. So probably not, but I just figured I'd ask because he's, I wouldn't say a mentor, but I definitely follow a lot of what he does and says because I love the fact that he follows a set of core values. He's got integrity. He's got ethics in business. He cares about people. His Gary Vee, he's got like 1,100 employees now. And so it's hard for me not to follow somebody like that has that experience and that level of building brands. So my next question or comment is, how did you morph into the kids boutique after the women's stuff? Question. Like, how did that come about?
Well, when you have 6 grandkids, right?
From one
right. From
child.
one son, 6 grandkids. But there was a need. People would come into the women's store and be like, where's the kids store? Where's the kids store? And then I brought in somebody to help me out with my website. Her name is Kara. And she and her sister, Amy, they previously had a women's boutique down the block on El Paseo that I think they closed about 8 years ago now because their kids started growing up and it was a little too much. So they had a women's store and then they had kids. So they opened up a kids store. Yeah. And so when people would keep coming in and saying, where's the kids store? Where's the kids store? I spoke to Karen and Amy and I'm like, there really is a need for the kids store. And when you had your store and it was called She Boutique and She Kids, what do you think? And they both said, do it. There is not enough here. There's really 2 main ones. And one very much focuses up to 7 years old. And then the other one, Janie and Jack, it's very much a brand. So, getting the surf lines in and up to 16, there was just a real gap, I'm filling a void, right, in the market. So I thought, okay, let's do that. So when I did apply for the second location, we immediately said, let's make the small location a kids store. And it slowly started coming about. And then Amy, Kara's sister, is so amazing at doing the buying and everything. And Karen and Amy went with me on a buying trip, one of my first ones of doing the kids. And I just said to Amy, will you please work for me and do the buying for the kids store? Because when I basically quadrupled my space. I did not quadruple myself. And in hindsight, I don't know why I thought I could. I just thought I could do both. Of course, I can do both. I can do this. I wear many hats. I can do this. And it was incredibly overwhelming. So Amy has really come in and taken over. Not really. She has come in. She does all the kids buying. She bounces things off me all the time. I'm one of those people who have always said, you hire people that are stronger than you in areas where you don't have strengths. I mean, you don't get right. That's how you continue to build, because if you bring in people that are better than you in the areas where you're not strong, everything lifts. So she's incredible at it. It's been amazing. And the feedback we've gotten is absolutely incredible. This is something interesting. Side note, totally off track. ADHD, welcome to my brain. Just last week, I'm talking to my property manager, and she has 2 kids, and she said, how do we get your kids store out there more? We hear about your women's store all the time. I'm in Fashion Week. I've been written up in newspapers, blah, 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 and the Palm Springs Life magazine many times. So a lot of people know about the women's store. She said, how do we get the kids store out there? I have kids and I don't hear about the kids store. And then we're standing outside looking at the kids store, and she goes, it doesn't even say kids on your store. And it was an aha moment. It's been open for over a year. It does not say kids on the outside of the store. So it's like things like that. When you have other people giving you feedback and insight and information, it just says Chrissy's on the front. It does not denote. And we're directly across from Shake Shack. So you have families sitting at Shake Shack looking across, not even knowing it's a kid's store. So I made a call this morning. I'm like, okay, we need to get some signs out front to say kids store. So it's just ever evolving.
Yeah, I think that's, this is a big thing too. When your culture and your brand expand, like what Brent was asking, how did you morph into this? You kind of forget like that missing piece. Like, well, Court, they know my name, Chrissy, so we're just going to build it off the brand of Chrissy's, right? Which you can still keep in there, but people don't realize that has shifted. And so there's a lot of times, that I've been in there, the people walk into the kids store now, which was originally the women's boutique. I'm like, where's the women's clothes? They're like, but so it's funny how those, like that, something so small, right? So small, like you have this aha moment. And now I'm glad you caught it. I mean, I think that's going to change. I would never think of that. You just said that now, and then my picture of mind for those people that like, where's Chrissy's on El Paseo again? If you know Armando's, if you've been down on El Paseo, everybody knows Armando's. She's right next to that, and then a lot of people come down here, and then right next to JC's Cafe is her women's boutique. So that just kind of gives you a landmark of that stuff. But I think the biggest thing that I want to shift gears back to is, like, you talked about something so important. Guys have a hard time doing this. And this is why I really liked having these women on over the last couple of weeks, is you realize that your bandwidth is only so much. And you brought in key people after key person after key person. And they're really, and I think that you will attest to this, they were all God-given people at the end of the day,
100%.
even regardless of their faith. They were all God-given to you at the certain time when you certainly need them. And when Brent and I talk a lot about this, is that, we try to control everything. And then you were, and same thing with April and Mary and Caitlin and Edna and all these people, the list that we have, women that we've had on this show. You realize that you can't duplicate yourself.
I thought I could.
By you. I mean, really, I can't have a multiple different Chrissy's, and Chrissy's bandwidth is only so much. But then you bring this other talent that just really makes your talent even shine brighter, correct? How did that come into, when did you realize, like, I've got to get rid of, did someone tell you to let go of the reins and hire somebody else? Was it something that you woke up one morning and going, how did that come to fruition? Because for guys, we don't know how that works a lot. Brent is a little bit better than me, but how did that work for you?
Well, I think it goes back to what I touched on, was that I did learn once upon a time in corporate America that a good manager hires people who are better than them in some areas, and the areas where you're not as good at. I have my strengths. And Brent, kind of to what you were saying, when I was in the wine industry, I was building brands. I had a lot of innovative brands, and that was my job, to build those brands. So I have a strong history in my resume of building brands. So I know how to do a lot of that aspect. Sales has always come very naturally to me. So that was easy. But the aspects that I needed help with all around was I need to bring in people who are strong at this, who like doing it, and who do the things that I don't do as well. Lori, my accounting manager, thank God, because if I have $5, I'll spend 6 and give away 4. So if you do the math, I'm under 5 right at this point. So that's my way of dealing with money. So Lori has come in and probably saved our business a few times from my spending habits and liking to have everything in the store that I could possibly want. To social media, I have an incredible social media, and I love it when people tell me that all day long. I get compliments, and I immediately turn it over to Leela. Leela, I have a social media manager, and she is phenomenal. Yes, I will get in front of the camera. She'll get everybody in front of the camera, but I won't take that credit, nor do I want to, because she is such an incredible, and she does yours as well. Force. So the areas that I don't like doing, or I'm not as strong at, yeah, I'm going to bring in those people. Amy, I could not begin to touch the kids store when I just expanded quadrupled my size. All of a sudden I realized I'm barely able to do all the buying for the women's. And I have Jen that I brought in who did the buying for BB1 for 30 years. And now I have her with me. So, at the end of the day, faith is the most important thing in my life. Am I perfect? No. Do I sin? Yes. Do I swear? Yes, often, especially on the golf course. But my faith is so important to me, and God brought every single one of these people to me, and it is absolutely incredible. And I am so fortunate and so blessed to have the people that I do surrounding me, because I can be up in the office and doing, there's a lot more back of the house stuff now with how much we've grown. So I'm not on the floor as much. And that's okay, because I have hired the most incredible people to be on the floor and take care of our customers. And that kind of leads into the culture. Our culture is, thank God my girls want to hit their goals every day. I have never, ever once been upset. And I know this is almost counterintuitive when you're in sales and trying to stay open. I've never, ever once been upset for not hitting a goal, because I know they're doing their best. I know they're trying their hardest. And so there's no reason for me to get upset if they're doing the best job that they can do. And so that's the culture that I bring. They know not to be scared. We are not commission. We do not have individual sales goals. When you walk into our store, the only thing I ask for, I would never get somebody in. Well, I don't want to get anybody in trouble or get upset for not hitting a goal, but I would be upset if you didn't greet my customer and offer them champagne within 5 seconds. That's way more important to me, because that sets the tone for when you come into our store. Listen, women can buy clothes anywhere. The El Paseo is full of wonderful, beautiful boutiques. You can go online these days and get clothing. For us, it's an experience when you come into Chrissy's. And somebody coined it. It wasn't even me. They said, it's always a party at Chrissy's, because that's what we want it to be. We want it to be fun. We want it to be experiential, and to have fun. And that's why we do offer the champagne starting at 10 a.m. and ending at 6 p.m. This is a community where people come for their second homes, where they come to vacation. So it's always fun. So that's how we set our tone. We have a great return policy, because people get upset about that. Hey, if you don't look good, I don't look good. We're not going to sell you something that doesn't look good on you just so we can get that sale.
Yeah. So Brent, what did you hear in that, bud?
Sorry, that was a lot.
No, it was good. There's so
Sorry.
much good stuff in there, dude. I'm like thinking, how do we keep this going for this might be Joe Rogan-esque a little bit. There's a lot of great stuff in there, just not even for, I think it's really important for women to hear this a lot. I've been begging her to come on this show for a long time, because she's here. But I just think there's such good, because it's a brutal world in the women's industry. Guys are used to doing that, selling cars, selling copiers, whatever it is. It's, it's cutthroat, but women can be mean, especially in this world of business, and then how you keep that culture to basically, I see her employees basically put blinders on. We don't care what everybody else says. We're just caring what's happening inside of Chrissy's and making the best experience possible. But with that being said, Brent, what did you hear out of what she just said? And go from there.
So the biggest thing that I heard was hire for the gaps. That's the nugget, is hire for the gaps. Don't hire people to try to duplicate yourself. Hire for your gaps. You don't want the same people that you are, because you're going to exponentially fail. So if you add more people like you, you're going to exponentially fail.
So true.
I think I just coined your new slogan after hearing you talk. Your new slogan for Chrissy's is experience the experience.
I like it.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
so maybe throw that
Good.
into your social media marketing, because what you talked about was it wasn't just the experience that you're going to have when you come in. It's experience cascading and experience stacking. So every time that you come in, it's going to be, now you're kind of like Norm at Cheers, is what I heard, right? You're going to have, everybody's going to know your name. Everybody's going to know what your likes are. They're going to show you the new cool things in the area that you are interested in, or what you were interested in last time. And then one question that I have for you is, what store is more profitable and what store is more fun for you or your employees?
That is a great question. I do have to say one thing. We actually, and a couple of my employees say it all the time. They say we are the Cheers of boutiques, because that is exactly what it's like. So
Yeah.
we do say that a lot. So that was a good pickup on that. Which store is more profitable? That's a question for Lori, my accounting manager.
So when I say profitable, and I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about intangibles. I'm talking about the experience. I'm talking about the opportunities. Which store is, I mean, of course, your women's store has been open longer, but maybe there's been more opportunities for success, or more opportunities to make a difference, or more opportunities to fill in the blank with the kids store versus the women. Like, what are the key highlights for each location or each store? They're right across the street, of course. So you thought,
Right.
well, heck, it's across the street. I can manage all this stuff, right? Or I'm going to have fun over here, and I'm going to be able to go over here when things are off over here. Maybe they'll be on over here. What's been your experience with those two stores?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great question. There is still opportunity in both stores. I'm still very new. I would say 75% of the desert and people who travel here still do not know my store. So I do invest heavily in marketing. So there is huge opportunity there. I think when we go back to talking about the gap, just like within my employees, I fill the gaps of things that I can't do, because no, to your point, 100%, I do not need to duplicate myself, because then I will fail exponentially and I still won't be able to get those things done. So with that, filling the gap from a shopping aspect, it was the kids store, because there was a gap here in the desert with not having that. Well, in Palm Desert, there's a kids boutique in La Quinta that's fantastic in Palm Springs, but here in Palm Desert and on El Paseo in particular, that was really the gap of having the kids store. So the potential continues to grow exponentially in the kids store for that opportunity. And I can't even imagine what it's going to happen when I actually say kids store on the awning on the outside of my store. It's ridiculous that I'm branding and love marketing and didn't catch on to that. But there's still tremendous opportunity in the women's store. And I know I'm not giving you an answer one way or the other, because I still feel it's very much equal for both stores, because so many people don't know about our women's store. And we're trying to fill that gap for the kids store aspect.
You asked a question, and I've seen this. I go in and say hi to her and do some stuff, but I view this stuff from the back of the bus, and the women are in it. I'm trying to think of how the best to say this is. I've seen people come into that store that how do you do this? Supposed to get emotional about this, but
Blair's a bit of a crier. I don't know if you guys all know this, but
and I don't know why it hit me that way, but
good.
I've seen women walk in that store with no sense of purpose. And it's powerful when you see your wife change that.
That's awesome.
And so when you see that stuff, because women will get lost in raising kids and being a wife and doing other things. And I'm not saying that's the only thing that's important for a woman, but you just get lost and get stuck in a routine. And when they get in to sit in a dress, maybe they're going out to a fancy spot, or maybe they have a special event that they have to be to, and they just never thought they would be in that position. And watching their face change, it's incredible.
It really is. So thank you, hon. Thank you. It is very special, and you make me cry. That really goes back to the culture of our store. Like I said, money has never been my God. Money has never been I mean, yes, I want to pay the bills. I want to make sure that all my people get paid, and would like to continue to go to Hawaii once a year. But really, at the start of every meeting, we pray, and I say the same thing every single time. The sales will come, people will buy because of who we are and the product that we have. But the only outstanding goal every single day above money is our job is to shine God's light on every single person who walks through that door. And
Right.
that is the ultimate goal. And it is truly incredible that women will come in and say, I don't even know where to begin.
Right.
And they will walk out of the dressing room and there is a light shining on them when they feel good.
Right.
And because they're like, one of the best things ever is I would have never picked that out, and it's now my favorite outfit.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming because as women, we do want to walk out of the house feeling good and looking nice and carrying ourselves well. It's not about materialism. It's just about uplifting yourself. I mean, we're in a desert community, so it's not even just about gowns and going to galas, but it's just every day being out in the sunshine and feeling good and loving this new top you have, because it does uplift your spirits.
It's powerful, man. I mean, I had a Ed Milet moment there for a little bit, but anyway, it's just I think it's pretty incredible. We have our membership manager here at Ironwood. She had her sister come in, and kind of the same moment, just a mom, usually in a ponytail and a hat and a sweatshirt, and hearing the story of how that changed her lot. And there's so many stories I'm probably having. I'm almost speaking for you, but
how you know the stories.
Yeah. I mean, when you see that, and I just think it's so important, that because Brent and I see that a lot. And Brent is, farther along with me on noticing those things. But, when you see that, how does that just change your demeanor, especially when ish is going sideways and things are just not fun in business, right?
What, you mean like when your store floods in the middle of season?
Just all these different things that can happen. I mean, the minus the rainbows and the butterflies and the stuff, the yucky part of business. And all of a sudden something like that happens and you see somebody, does it bring back, I mean, not only does it humble you a little bit, but it's also bring back to reality, this is what God put me here for.
Well, I'm a very humble person because, as you know, I named it Chrissy's during COVID because I just needed to open the store, and I thought I was going to be back at the street fair. And so every time I have a meeting, I say, I wish I would have named it Jen, Janny, Lori, Paul, Bridget, Carrot, so my name is on the store, but I wish I would have had it something else. So, cause I am kind of humble in I am humble in those regards. But when that does happen, yes. And when all the ick is going on, which happens when you're running your own business, but one of those moments happened, I always say the same thing. And it's just like, okay, that's why, God, thank you. It's just a quick reminder of you are here in the fashion way and in a way that lifts women to transform people and make them feel better. And again, that's what it's about. It's to shine God's light on every single person who walks through that door. And the girls get mad if somebody walks out without a bag, and that's their job to do. But I'm like, that's okay. Did they have fun? And they're like, yeah, they had a blast. They love it. They said they'll be back. And I go, okay, that's what's important. Mm-hmm. Because the sales will come as a result, and the culture we built and the merchandise that we have will naturally have sales. But my team is so incredible. And that goes back to the culture. I am definitely from corporate America, but we have really stayed away from a corporate America culture. It is a family. We call each other a family. We don't call each other a team. I will once in a while we'll say team, but we say family. Okay, we're gonna get the Chrissy's family together. So it is very much ingrained in those regards. Do we have to have some serious conversations and serious meetings? And have there been people who have quit or been fired? Absolutely. And that's the icky part. But we are a family, and that's how we treat each other. And as a result, that's how we treat our clients.
Yeah.
And we have a man cave because we want to make sure you guys are comfortable and happy and sitting down with beers at the furthest part from the cash register.
Just hand me your credit. We'll give you a beer, but you hand me your credit card.
Right, exactly.
We'll see you in about 2 hours, and it's good.
So it is. And if you don't mind, if I may go on, sorry if I'm having a rambling moment. Something else that you've talked about a few times and on the podcast is celebrating the wins. And this is something I get really, really frustrated with you on, because Blair says, well, you're really good at celebrating the wins. And I really encourage you to do that more. Here's the thing with celebrating the wins. Wins and successes, great fashion week, great sales day, a great event. That's incredible. And it's because of everybody who has contributed to it. So I think it's vital to celebrate the wins. But more importantly, as faithful people, when you're celebrating your wins, you're not going, oh my gosh, look at me, Chrissy Armstrong with this boutique. Look what we did. No, it is actually even more humbling when you celebrate the wins, because you're going out there and saying, look what happened. And it's because of God's grace. It's because of God's desire for me. He put me here. And if I don't celebrate those wins, I'm denying him of what he gave me.
How about that, Brent?
And I think that and now I get to say it in front of the public.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
100%.
need to celebrate your wins. You need to do what the other agents do and post when you close. Post when you have a great client that you made really happy, because you're not saying, look at me, Blair Armstrong, which I know is what you don't want to do. But you need to say, look at me and what God has given me, and look at the success I am having. I mean, 5 years ago, we were at the street fair.
Yeah.
Now you're presidential elite with sorry, did I say that? Presidentially with Coldwell Banker luxury real estate. That just doesn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't. No, I think you're right. And Brent and I have talked about this in past episodes, and Brent, I'm going to be feeling this. And, we've both come into mentality, and obviously through Tim Glover and Ed Milet and Tim Grover, excuse me. I apologize. Sorry. But anyway.
It's okay, Blaine.
Right. The guy that coached basically Michael Jordan to success, and obviously Kobe Bryant. But it's just Brent and I have always talked about this, and it's hard to get out of it. And we actually have an episode on this, but it's this job not done, right? It's a pursuit of perfection and settling on excellence, and it's very hard to get out of it. And I'm glad that she dressed me down on it. And I think there's a lot of valid points that she just said on there. But what do you say about that? Because you kind of have the same type. You have a lot of victories that not a lot of people know about, Brent. And did that hit home differently, what she just said?
Yeah. So we did this exercise yesterday. One of my business partners for a new business that we're buying sent out a ChatGPT script, and we had everybody that's in the new business do it. I had my existing clients. I had some of my coaching clients do it. I sent it to my wife, and she did it. And it essentially helps to identify the areas that you need to work on, that you need to forgive yourself for, and that you need to celebrate and learn how to do affirmations to, or manifestations. And so when I share it with you, you're going to be like, it's an aha moment. I would definitely suggest that you both do it and share it with each other.
Okay.
But one of the biggest things that I struggle with is not just celebrating and being okay with celebrating. It's being in the present. And I'm always future pacing everything. And so and again, this came out in this chat GPT script, was that I don't allow myself not only to celebrate the wins for very long, if at all, but it's never good enough. What I'm doing today is never good enough, not only for me, but the people around me. Well, the people around me don't believe the BS that I'm telling myself. And so what I heard out of all of that, what Chrissy said was that really she too, just like we do on this podcast, need to realize that we are making a damn difference. And I think she heard you say it, and hopefully you heard her say it.
Hmm.
Your emotional response to that should be that should be a win that you celebrate, because neither
Right.
you or I are very emotional about much. But I
Right.
will tell you that I'm very emotional about my wife's successes, probably more than I am about my own.
Yeah.
Mhm.
1,000%. And it's different when you're celebrating others. You just extend it. I mean, people freak out when I say this, but there's a lot of mental work to not being an introvert. And Chrissy hates crowds and gets anxious when stuff like this, and I kind of the same thing, and so when we get home at 5 o'clock, that's where I always joke, like, why do you have dinner at 5:30? It's like, well, because I'm so mentally exhausted being out of my safe space, which is just by myself. It's hard to celebrate. That's why I don't want the limelight. Just go do what you're supposed to do, act like you've been there, do this. But there is a thing like that, because I think the people that I have around me, with the Davids and some other people around there, it's right. And I'm trying to be better at it. We're trying to like be a little bit more open that we are successful in the things that we've done. Still a long ways away from it, but it's what are you training the next culture to be like? Right now, as Dave and I've had this conversation, okay, what does our business look like 20 years from now? You're going to be running this show. How am I showing him that, you've got to celebrate the wins and doing a little bit better? And that, so it's hard for me. Because I see a lot of guys that are celebrating wins that they're not wins in my eyes, but I've got to be better at it. I just like I'm gonna be cocky for like 2 minutes here. We blew you out of the freaking water, and you're celebrating like mediocrity, and that's what I look at. I'm like, why are you doing this? What is that thing? But I get it at the end of the day, because it's keeping them in the game when things are bad. So I'm on that edge, bro. And it's just kind of the same thing with you. That's why you and I have been friends for 30 years. It's like, it's never good enough. And how do we become better? And we stay status quo, or like, oh, it's okay. I feel like we're losing an edge.
I resonate with Andy Frisella on so many levels. And one of the levels is like, yes, we're good, but we're not where we want to be. And what does that look like? So like, he believes and wakes up every day, and he said this multiple times, that every time he wakes up, he looks at Nike stock, he looks at their stats for employees, their square footage, all their things, and then looks at his and does a comparison. Like, he's getting his ass kicked by Nike.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to be bigger than Nike. So you still have to have your goals. But the one thing that chat script helped me to realize is that, and my wife said this yesterday on another level, and I'll go into that in a second, but you have to be present and you have to appreciate what's going on today. My wife said, do you realize that we have 7 summers left with our daughter before she leaves to go to college or life?
My goodness.
7 summers. And you remember, Chrissy, you guys were there right after she was born.
Yeah.
She's going to be 11 next month.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and I want to go back to, because I think everyone has said the same thing, and in a way resonates. That's why I love this podcast so much, because there's so much aha moments in here. But I think that one thing they said is let me go to this. When you win, where do you want to take this? Do you want to be? Obviously, you want to be the best, because you're competitive, as I is, just on a different spectrum of competitiveness. But you're competitive, especially in the world of business.
Yes.
You want to be the best. You want to outshine everybody else. You're the new kid on the block on El Paseo. I'm the new kid on the block in real estate compared to all the other big hitters that I'm chasing right now. Right.
Sure.
So I love what you said, is like, you got to celebrate the wins, because it helps your employees, knowing that they're doing a good job, especially you have 15 employees now?
17.
So how do you stay, celebrating your wins, but you also in the same breath said, you're humble. How do you stay focused on winning that next trophy? Whatever it is, it's not a participation trophy, but that next trophy, I'm getting to the next level, that next championship, that next playoff win. How are you getting through all that?
Well, yeah, first of all, I grew up in an era where there weren't participation trophies. It was first, second, third, and MVP. So,
right.
But couple things. Going back to what Brent said, and this all ties into your question. When he was saying, yes, we did well today, but I'm not where I want to be. I get that 100%. But there's that old saying, and sayings are out there for a reason. Life isn't about the destination. It's about the journey. And if you are not being present and celebrating those milestones in the journey, you're denying yourself, you're denying your team. And I believe in my heart that you're denying God of what he has given you to celebrate. And that's what it comes back to, is celebrating those blessings and what he's afforded you to do. And so that's why I do think it's so important. And yes, maybe other people are celebrating and you're like, hey, I blew you out of the water, but they're celebrating their wins. Maybe that was a big win for them.
Yeah.
And so even if you blew them out of the water, they're not seeing what you're doing because you're not celebrating your wins. So from an outsider's perspective, they are killing it because I'm seeing their wins. But going back to your question, and forgive me if I messed that up a little bit, but
that's good.
Yes, I am competitive. I do want to do well. I want my store to succeed, both stores to succeed, most importantly for all of my employees and for us, and to hopefully one day retire, since we got killed during COVID. We did have to start from scratch again. So yeah, I am competitive. I do want to do well. I do want to have my store shine, but something that I truly believe, we are a small block and it is a destination place to go shopping. Yes, I am the new kid on the block. And there are a couple stores that, I won't mince words, hate me. I've come in a very short time. We've done well, and that's fine. That's on them. That's not about me. What other people think of me is none of my business. But when people come in and I don't have something, I'm going to tell them where to go on the block. I'm going to suggest other stores on the block. I am going to share with them something else, because I truly believe that a rising tide lifts all ships. So if the street is doing well, inherently I'm going to do better. That's also why I have a 2-page sheet of every place to go. I have mechanics, hair, nails, restaurants, happy hour, lunch, breakfast, dinner, every place, just to share it among our community, because we are a small community and I do like keeping things local. So I don't know if I rambled there and answered your question or not.
I think it's good to say. I think that's a big part about this is it's a winner's mentality. It's like, you're going to be good in your level. There's other people that are going to go ahead and maybe have something that you don't have, but trying to keep separate. Andy's really good at this. Brent's brought up Andy Frisella a couple of times. Andy is very good he is really good friends with people that have supplement stores. You're good friends with other people that have boutiques, and you share ideas back and forth to do it. There's a group of us realtors that will trust each other to want to see us get better, but it's being at that table, Brent, that you and I have talked about, right? It's being invited to the table. And if you don't have that table, create your own table, which we talked about. You don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch those episodes. So, but Brent, I know I don't want to cut this off, but I want to cut this off because I think that we could go on for all of this, but I think that you need to come back on. But I don't think that you need to come back on, because there is a lot of wisdom in that. And it's what we really didn't scratch the surface on, and how hard it is to create a business as a woman in this world at this time, and how you cut your teeth on it, which you kind of gave us a little backstory to it. But there's a lot more to that. We didn't talk a lot about a lot of losses today, which created your successes.
Losses are the only reason I'm here.
Right, losses, you're here, right? So, right. Brent, any final words for you?
Yeah, I I think it's very key to understand that the losses are the only reasons that you win.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Period.
And as always, we've gone long. I got to get to my next meeting, and so I just say, go make a damn difference and keep doing it, Chrissy. You do it with a smile. I came up with another slogan for you: your destination shopping location.
Yeah.
So for some marketing stuff.
Thank you. Yes, we do utilize that a lot. We are a destination.
Good. Yeah. So, yeah, I would say just keep shining your light, and it's apparent that these are God-given gifts, and so really just recognize them and realize from each other the best gift that you guys could give each other is just keep doing what you're doing in this situation. Do this in person, do this every day, do this at the location. Show people that you guys are an unwavering, unsplittable team when you guys are together at your locations, out in public, behind the scenes, everything.
Spot on, man.
Thank you both so much for having me. This is amazing.
It was
I'm
good.
glad I got to be 96.
You got to be number 96, babe.
Took
Now
me
you
a
know
few
why
to
we
get
call
here.
it Therapy Thursdays.
Now I do know why.
We talked about business. We talked about relationships. We talked about business flows and cultures. There's a lot into this one that we're going to unpack for a little bit, but thank you so much for coming on here. I'm super grateful. Brent and I are super grateful for having you on. You're now officially an old girl that still rocks.
Yeah.
Do I get a hat?
We can get you a hat. We get you a
29
t-shirt.
again.
29 again.
Yeah.
Can I just give you a little nugget for maybe the next time I'm on?
Yeah.
We were talking about the struggles of being a woman-owned business these days. I don't feel that.
Good.
I feel like anybody who has their own business, there are struggles, and I don't. I define as a woman,
Right?
Not a cat or a dog. Right. I'm not a fur, but or a man. But I think it's just about putting your nose to the grindstone and just getting it done, whatever that looks like for whatever business you have, whatever gender you are. I think that women have a lot of opportunity out there to do it well. And I mean, April's a great testament to that. Yeah. So I know we have to go.
No, I think that's a great way to leave on. And we're going to come back to that a little bit later, but guys, thank you for sticking with us. I know this is a little bit longer than normal, but there was just so much to unpack here. And Brent and I really wanted to get this message out, especially with April last week and Chrissy this week. Really go back and watch those episodes, especially if you're a woman, and understand that you have a lot of support in the background. So if you want to reach out to Brent and I, or if you want to reach out to April, if you want to reach out to Chrissy, just go ahead and leave us a message, either through YouTube or through Spotify, and obviously through it's going to be on all of our social media pages. So that's a great way to go ahead and get that out there too. But until next week, guys, stay safe, but most of all, God bless. And thank you so much for all your support. Take care.